This evening, first up, new leadership, high stakes. President Irfaan Ali swears in a 25-member cabinet he calls a powerful fusion of strength. Who's in and what the president says will define their success. Plus, acid attack confession. Police say the mastermind behind the brutal Georgetown assault has admitted his role. We'll tell you what's next as the hunt continues for his accomplices. Also, opposition backlash. APNU slams the new cabinet as pointless, accusing the PPPC of reshuffling failure instead of delivering change. How the coalition plans to challenge the government. Meanwhile, no more delays. Minister Priya Manickchand demands the long-overdue Bamia Primary School be finished by October or else. Can the contractor finally deliver after years of setbacks? And a trade war heats up. Mexico slaps heavy tariffs on Chinese cars in a move analysts says could win Washington's favor but risk Beijing's wrath. These stories and more coming up on Headline News Update. Stay with us. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for September 15, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, President Dr. Mohamed Irfaan Ali on Saturday evening unveiled a 25-member cabinet he says will steer Ghana's transformation from 2025 to 2030, pledging people-centered leadership, accountability, and results-driven governance. The swearing-in ceremony at State House featured a mix of seasoned policymakers and fresh faces, reflecting what the president called the nation's traditional mix, with men and women from every ethnic group and a balance of youth and experience. Among the key appointments are Mahabir Anil Nandlal as Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Gil Tashira as Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Dr. Ashni Singh as Senior Minister for Finance, Hugh Todd as Foreign Affairs Minister, and Priya Manickchand as the Minister of Local Government and Regional Development. Other prominent portfolios include Zulfikar Mustafa as Agriculture Minister, Dr. Frank Anthony as Health Minister, and Juan Edgehill as Public Works Minister. Retaining their ministerial posts, Vikram Bharat is also retaining his position as Minister of Natural Resources. President Ali warned that the coming 5 years will be the most decisive in Ghana's history, insisting that ministers will be judged on efficiency, humility, and service.
The foundation of this new government is about results, people, efficiency, transparency, and relentless hard work. So it is in that context that continuity, stability, agility, and speed form the basis through which we move forward.
The president reaffirmed the administration's mission to spread prosperity to every household, ensure dignified retirement for elders, and expand access to clean communities, sanitation, and world-class education and healthcare. Earlier this week, President Ali named Brigadier retired Mark Phillips as Prime Minister and former President Bar Jagdeo as Vice President, completing the top tier of the People's Progressive Party civic government. On a different note, police have arrested and secured a confession from the alleged mastermind behind the September 3rd acid attack that left 2 young women injured at Middle and East Street, Georgetown. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham earlier today confirmed that 32-year-old driver Kieran Daniels of iFloat West Coast Amarara admitted to plotting the attack and is cooperating with investigators. He remains in police custody as the probe continues. The victims have been identified as 23-year-old Jalika Leach, who was identified as the intended target, and 20-year-old Nirmala Sukraj, who was injured in the process. According to police sources, Daniels told investigators that he had initially hired 2 men, including the now wanted prime suspect, to rough up the victim. The prime suspect, however, reportedly suggested using acid instead. On the morning of the attack, Daniels allegedly dropped off his wife at Balwant Singh Hospital before collecting the prime suspect and another masked accomplice. He then provided the getaway vehicle and paid to have the false license plate installed to avoid detection. Reports indicate that the prime suspect hurled acid at Leach outside the city hospital, also splashing Sukraj. Both women sustained chemical burns but survived the attack. Sukraj was able to make her way back to the hospital and receive immediate treatment. Leach, however, entered a bar in the vicinity of her workplace but was turned away with her injuries and the door shut in her face. She stumbled outside a Chinese supermarket and fell. The owners came out with a bottle of water, soaked her and took her to the hospital. Police says efforts are ongoing to track down the prime suspect and the second accomplice as the investigations move towards possible charges against all those involved. In other news, the Ghana Police Force continues to investigate two high-profile incidents involving local artist and businesswoman Lolita Calendar, popularly known as Lola Doll, an attempted murder and the unauthorized circulation of an intimate hospital video. Police have detained a 20-year orthopedic technician attached to the Georgetown Public Hospital after a report of the publication or transmission of an image of the private area of a person. Investigators said the technician admitted to secretly recording Calendar at the hospital with his cell phone, but claimed he only sent the video to his ex-girlfriend via WhatsApp and did not post it on Facebook. The suspect told police he deleted the recording after noticing it circulating widely on social media. His phone has been seized and handed over to the cybercrimes unit for analysis. Efforts are underway to locate the ex-girlfriend to determine how the footage was further distributed. Meanwhile, police continue to probe the September 6th shooting of Calendar, who was ambushed and shot several times while sitting in her car outside her East Rheinfeldt home. CCTV footage shows a gunman arriving on a motorcycle. However, from her hospital bed, Calendar recorded a video, now viral, naming her attacker as an alias and pleading for justice. Shortly after that video surfaced, Wayne Barker, a defendant in a separate abduction case, turned himself into the police with his lawyer after his photograph was circulated online. The police had arrested two other suspects since the shooting. The first, whose identity was not released, was picked up within hours but freed on $500,000 station bail after a 72-hour detention period expired. The second, a U.S.-sanctioned businessman, Paul Randall Dabby Jr., was also released on $1 million station bail under strict reporting conditions once his detention period ended. The police confirmed that the investigation into the attempted murder is ongoing and that they are pursuing all leads while awaiting further forensic analysis in both the shooting and the leaked hospital video. Stick around when we return. Crabwood Creek tragedy. Man murders wife, takes own life after domestic dispute. And Minister Manickchand sets October deadline for a long-delayed Bamia Primary School.
Gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Step right up because it's time for Digicel's $12 million punch and win. Top up with just $1,000 or more for a shot at winning up to $2 million weekly. That's right, up to $2 million weekly. 6 weeks, $2 million per week. Will you be one of our lucky winners? There's only one way to find out. Top up, punch, and win. Only with Digicel. Digicel, better connected.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road, Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again. Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. The shaken opposition coalition, a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, has criticized President Irfaan Ali's newly appointed cabinet, calling the weekend ministerial reshuffle a pointless exercise that will do little to address what it says are the government's chronic failures. In a statement released on Sunday, APNU said the swearing-in of 25 ministers at State House on Saturday night shows that the People's Progressive Party's civic administration remains comfortable with its records of underperformance, incompetence, and corruption. The coalition noted that 18 ministers from the previous cabinet were reappointed, questioning the president's campaign promise to base ministerial selection on performance. Switching inept ministers from one ministry to the other is a pointless exercise, the statement said. It will continue to blunder and flop. APNU also condemned the appointment of former ministers Rubison Ben and Joseph Hamilton as ministerial advisors, calling it another ploy to provide them with a lavish retirement package. The coalition further criticized the elevation of Deodat Indar, formerly a junior public works minister, to head the newly created Ministry of Public Utilities and Aviation, accusing him of failing to address persistent nationwide blackouts. According to APNU, the reshuffle reflects political patronage and will only result in more square pegs in round holes, predicting that the new cabinet will continue an ad hoc and disjoint approach to planning with no people-centered policymaking. The coalition warned that lots of money will be wasted through corruption and incompetence and vowed to stand up for workers, families and communities and those struggling to make a daily living. President Ali's updated team retains key figures such as Attorney General Anil Nandlal, Finance Minister Dr. Ashwini Singh, Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony, and Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, while making notable portfolio shifts. Priya Manickchand moved from education to local government and regional development. Soni Parag now takes over education, and Wanij Waldron has replaced Rubison Ben as Home Affairs Minister, with Ben serving as her advisor. New faces include Attorney Keoma Griffith as the Labour and Manpower Planning Minister, Stephen Jacobs as the Minister within Culture, Youth and Sports, Zulfikar Ali as Public Service Minister for Government Efficiency and Implementation, and Vanessa Ben as Minister within the Ministry of Housing. Despite these changes, APNU insists the reshuffle signals nothing will change, promising to intensify its outreach and monitoring of the government in the months ahead. Moving on, newly appointed Minister of Local Government and Regional Development Priya Manickchand has demanded that contractors complete the Bamia Primary School outside Linden by October 2025, almost 4 years after the project began and following multiple missed deadlines. From the school site on Sunday, Minister Manickchand stressed that the school must be ready for children without further delays.
Right now, what's happening is the children are on shift or sitting 3 and 4 on a bench, even when they're on shift. But we can't continue that. So we've just had a meeting with the contractor and their subcontractors and gone through all the things that need to be done. And we're going to be putting someone here fully to make sure that these finishing works will be finished, because for the longest while I've been reading that they are close to finishing. But I've also seen other schools where there isn't a push, and other buildings that last leg of finishing take forever. We can't afford that here. These children have to come into this school, and we're looking at a date of in October to begin this. So we're going to make sure we put a project manager on the premises and run down the things that have to finish. And the contractors have been told that it's either they finish this or come off the project.
The $346 million contract was awarded to Statement Investment Inc. in November of 2021, with completion originally scheduled for July of 2023. The project has faced repeated setbacks, including labor shortages, rising material costs, and unfavorable weather. Earlier this year, the contractor reported that only minor electrical, plumbing, and lighting works remain. The modern facility is expected to feature 44 classrooms, a gymnasium, auditorium, science lab, music room, library, smart classrooms, and upgraded restroom facilities designed to accommodate the Bamia catchment area. Currently, students are attending classes on a shift system, which the minister emphasized must end once the school opens. Statement Investment Incorporated, founded in March of 2021, is led by Rolf Ferguson and Kerwin Bullers of Hits and Jams Entertainment, along with Aubrey Shanghai Major and Kashif Mohammed of the Shanghai and Kashif football tournament. Minister Manickchand, who previously served as Minister of Education, made completing long-delayed projects her immediate priority upon taking office, signaling a no-nonsense approach to ensuring schools in Region 10 and beyond meet operational deadlines. The Bamia community has eagerly anticipated the school, which is seen as a transformative addition to the region's education landscape. With the ministry now personally overseeing the project, pressure is on the contractor to deliver on its promise before the new deadline. In other news, a quiet quarantine community was left in shock on Sunday after a brutal act of domestic violence claimed the life of a mother of two, followed by the apparent suicide of her husband. Police have since launched a full investigation into the incident, which unfolded at the Vishal Singh Sawmill compound, Crabwood Creek, Berbice. The victim has been identified as 36-year-old Alicia Narain, also known as Tito, a domestic worker and vendor who lived in the compound with her reputed husband Ram Singh, with whom she shared a 15-year common-law relationship. The couple had 2 children together and, according to investigators, had been experiencing long-standing domestic issues that were already before the courts. The tragic chain of events reportedly began around 9:30 a.m. when Narain video called her female cousin. During the call, the cousin saw Singh approach his wife from behind, wielding a cutlass. He allegedly seized the phone and chillingly declared, Today I will murder her," before ending the call. Alarmed, the cousin immediately contacted Narain's 18-year-old daughter, Felicia, informing her that Singh was attacking her mother. She rushed to the compound only to find her mother lying motionless with severe wounds. Felicia then hurried to the Springlands police station to report the matter. Upon arrival, law enforcement discovered Narain's body lying behind a heap of stones in the compound. Her right leg, just below the knee, was nearly severed. She also sustained deep wounds to her right shoulder and left hand. A subsequent search led officers to a sideline dam where Singh was found under a tree. He had reportedly ingested a suspicious substance and was rushed to the No. 75 Village Regional Hospital. Despite medical intervention, he succumbed while receiving treatment. Both bodies were later transferred to the Skeldon Public Hospital mortuary, both awaiting post-mortem examinations. The double tragedy has left the Crabwood Creek community reeling, with neighbors describing the couple's relationship as troubled and marred by frequent disputes. Authorities have noted that the matter underscores the persistent issue of domestic violence in Guyana, which continues to claim lives despite increased public awareness and court interventions. The police says investigations are ongoing. If you or anyone you know is a victim of domestic violence, you can contact the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security 914 hotline for help. Don't go away after the break. Ecuador protests. Demonstrators demand President Daniel Noboa resigns, and Mexico's tariff on Chinese cars. Government proposal to double import levy to 50%.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the moment you've been waiting for. Step right up because it's time for Digicel's $12 million punch and win. Top up with just $1,000 or more for a shot at winning up to $2 million weekly. That's right, up to $2 million weekly. 6 weeks, $2 million per week. Will you be one of our lucky winners? There's only one way to find out. Top up, punch, and win. Only with Digicel. Digicel, better connected.
Good girl, forget things.
What's the problem, Granny? I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again. Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services. 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. In South America, Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Perino warned Ghana and Trinidad and Tobago they would face retaliation if attacks come from their territory, accusing the U.S. of plotting aggression. Trinidad's Prime Minister dismissed the claims as alarmism, while Ghana has not publicly commented on Perino's latest warning. Meanwhile, in North America, Mexico plans heavy tariffs on Chinese imports, including cars, as part of a broader budget strategy, raising tensions with Beijing and appealing to Washington, Al Jazeera's John Holman reports.
Anti-government protesters clashed with police in Quito as they marched toward the presidential palace. Riot police used tear gas to break up the demonstrators, a mix of indigenous groups and workers' unions. The protesters are demanding the resignation of President Daniel Noboa. They accuse him of pushing austerity measures that cut thousands of public sector jobs and calling for a controversial referendum that could see the return of US military bases to the country. He also wants to give lawmakers the power to impeach judges of the Constitutional Court.
It is a march to say enough to a lying and incompetent government. It wants to spend $80 million on a referendum, blackmailing the court, the only space it has not yet taken over. A referendum won't solve the problems of unemployment, lack of medicines, and the lack of school textbooks.
As protesters clashed with the police in the capital, Noboa led a rival march in the country's largest city, Guayaquil, defending his security policies as essential to fight the crime plaguing the country.
The people voted for change, not once but twice, and yet they still want to keep everything the same. They want to side with the rapists, the drug traffickers, the criminals, and all the people who have harmed us.
Ecuador has seen a sharp rise in violence as drug gangs have turned the country into a major hub for cocaine destined to the United States. Noboa has deployed the army to the streets and pushed for harsher penalties for drug traffickers. But when the Constitutional Court struck down parts of his reforms, critics accused them of undermining judicial independence and pressuring judges to back his agenda. The recent visit of U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio escalated tensions even further. He pledged millions of dollars in military assistance to support Noboa's war against organized crime and backed plans to reopen U.S. military bases shut down in 2009 by leftist President Rafael Correa. Noboa, now in the first year of his second term after a 2023 snap election, insists only security can restore economic stability. But austerity policies, unemployment and medicine shortages have instead left many Ecuadorians feeling increasingly abandoned. Alessandro Ampietti, Al Jazeera.
Protests in Ecuador's capital, Quito, have turned violent as indigenous and social groups call for the resignation of President Daniel Noboa. Al Jazeera's Alexandra Rampietti reports.
Mexico's the biggest buyer of Chinese-made automobiles, but that could soon change. The government's proposing to slap a tariff of 50% on Chinese cars, more than doubling the existing one. It's a blow to the Asian giant, one that its foreign ministry, albeit diplomatically, spoke out against.
China has always advocated for inclusive and beneficial economic globalization, opposed all forms of unilateralism, protectionism, and discriminatory and exclusionary measures, and firmly opposed any coercion by others to impose restrictions on China under various pretexts, which undermines our legitimate rights and interests. We will safeguard our interests.
In general, Chinese imports and investments have been increasing in Mexico over the last few years. But the US is concerned that Mexico might provide a backdoor to the North American market for Chinese goods, circumventing US tariffs. Now, with pressure from President Trump and the USMCA, the free trade agreement which links Mexico, the US and Canada up for renegotiation, Mexico has acted.
The US has been claiming, particularly from the arguments made by President Trump, that China is getting access to the US market through Mexico. So Mexico is putting a step into the conversation saying, okay, if that's your claim, then we are doing something to prevent that from being an excuse for the US not to have a reasonable conversation for the USMCA that we are going to have under the Sunset Clause in the coming months.
So it's all about this free trade agreement between the US, Mexico and Canada, and Mexico trying to make sure that the US comes to the table thinking Mexico's on side.
Yes, and I think that what Mexico did 2 days ago was basically they chose a side, and this side is the US.
That's not, however, how the Mexican president spanned the new tariffs.
We do not want any conflict with any country, so we are talking with the Chinese ambassador in Mexico. We're explaining that this is a measure related to strengthening our economy and the Mexico plan.
The budget proposal has more than 1,400 other tariffs in it, mostly affecting Asian countries. But the one on Chinese cars, say economists, is the most noteworthy measure. Now the Mexican Congress will need to vote in the proposal. But since the governing party has a majority there, that should be a foregone conclusion. John Holman, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
The government of Nepal has been assessing the economic impact of the protests and riots that shook the nation last week. Al Jazeera's Rob McBride reports.
With life quickly returning to normal, it's time for Nepal to count the cost of one of the most turbulent upheavals in decades. These protests were organised by Zoomers or Gen Z, young people who feel excluded both politically and economically.
As the Gen Z movement, we are raising our voices against corruption, bad governance and autocratic control.
A lot of people coming on.
Tanuja Pandey is one of many activists driven in part by what they see as the economic inequalities stacked against the young.
The system is only favoring few people and rest of them are struggling. You know, people are living with bare minimum. They are forced to live with bare minimum.
The social media posts by the so-called Nepo kids, a group of privileged young Nepalese enjoying lavish lifestyles often overseas, have further incensed the majority of young people for whom travel abroad means the chance of a better life. The reopening of government services after last week's shutdown has resulted in a surge of visitors to passport offices looking for a way out.
Nothing's changed for the young. No jobs, no education, no healthcare. There is no change. You know how it is.
There is no work in Nepal. I don't see a future. That's why I'm leaving. That's why I'm here for my passport.
With youth unemployment running at 20%, it's estimated young people have been leaving Nepal at a rate of around 2,000 a day. Even a transformed political environment won't change that anytime soon, and in fact the turmoil of the past week may have made things worse. From tourism to retail, job prospects now look more grim. At Kathmandu's biggest department store, torched during the riots, the mostly young staff have been salvaging what they can of fire-damaged goods, not knowing when their place of work will be rebuilt. Just as the country is wondering how to replace the billions of dollars in destroyed government buildings it can ill afford to pay for. Rob McBride, Al Jazeera, Kathmandu.
That brings us to the end of our regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3-day weather forecast. And that's it, TV2 Headline News for this Monday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourselves and each other.